Om Vishwandarpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyan Nijantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahirivod Bhutan Yatha Nidraya Yasakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanamevad Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Nama Idam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Narayanam Padma Bhuvam Vasishtham Shaktin च तत्पुत्र Parasharam च Vyasam Shukam Gauda Padam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Mathasya Shishyam Shri Shankaracharya Mathasya Padma Padancha Hastamalancha Shishyam Tantotakam Vartikakaram Asmat Gurun Santatamanatosmi श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः परब्रह्मनिष्ठं स्वतो धर्मनिष्ठं अहिंसैकनिष्ठं स्वशिष्यै सुजुष्टं यतीनां वरिष्ठं गुरूणां गरिष्ठं दयानन्दरूपं मदाचार्यमीडे नमः श्री परमार्थाय संसाराध्यासनाशिने श्रोत्रिय ब्रह्मनिष्ठाय तस्मै ब्रह्मविदे नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ I welcome you all to the 33rd class of the Fundamentals of Vedanta series. So we have been looking at the roadmap for moksha. And on the road to moksha, adhikaritvam is an important milestone. Because only an adhikari can gain the prayojanam of the study of Vedanta, which is this purnatvam. We saw how an adhikari becomes an adhikari through karma yoga, upasana yoga. And coming to this adhikaritvam milestone is aneka sadhana sadhyam. There are many ways to get there, and all of those methods and lifestyles to get there, they all come under karma yoga. Even upasana yoga is really can be put under karma yoga itself. Lokesmin dvividha nishtha. Either one can be in a mode where one is purifying one's mind for the sake of jnanam, in which case it becomes karma yoga. Or one has come to the adhikaritvam milestone, and then one begins to pursue jnana yoga. These are the two states one can be in. And we also saw that the guru has arrived on the scene. And we saw who the guru is and why the guru is necessary in the study. And therefore, now this adhikari, with the help of the guru, enters jnana yoga. And we said that there are two important conversions that have to happen for this to move forward from adhikaritvam once one comes to the guru. The first conversion is that the mumukshuhu needs to be converted into a jiknyasuhu. A seeker of moksha needs to be converted into a seeker of jnanam. And how is this done? Basically, the guru points out that the root cause, the entire samsara is ajnanam. The 10th man was already the 10th man, but the 10th man was still somehow seeking for the 10th man. So it's an absurd situation. And why was he doing so? Because he was not knowledgeable. He was ignorant of his own status of being the 10th man. Similarly, this Jiva is Purna. Purnatvam is the nature of this Jiva. But this Jiva is not, doesn't have the Jnanam of his own Purnatvam. He is ignorant of his own Purnatvam. Therefore, Samanya Jnanam is there, that I am, but the Vishesha Jnanam of who I am is not there. And this is the ideal condition for a superimposition. He superimposes all kinds of things, attributes of the body and the mind upon this I am, and then he starts to say, I am limited. And then he goes about trying to pursue Purnatvam. He says, I am Apurnaha, and he tries to pursue Purnatvam. This I am Apurnaha is a superimposition. It's a product of Ajnanam, but he doesn't know that. And therefore, he is helplessly searching for this Purnatvam in the external world, just like this person who lost the ring in some other dark place. He was searching for the ring where the light is. Because that's the only place he could search. That is where the light is. All our senses are directed outwards, and we think that we will find it somewhere here. So the struggle can only end with knowledge, because this is a case of accomplishing the already accomplished. If something that is not accomplished has to be accomplished, then action is the means, karma is the means. But if something is already accomplished and one thinks it still needs to be accomplished and is trying to accomplish it, then that is out of ignorance. And how does ignorance go? How does darkness go? Darkness goes only with light. Similarly, ignorance can go only with knowledge. Therefore, this is the first conversion that has to happen. The seeker of moksha has to be converted into a seeker of jnanam. A mumukshu has to become a jigyasu. But then, even after one comes to this point, there's a lot of funny ideas about what the knowledge is. And therefore, there has to be clarity about what is the nature of knowledge and what is the means of the knowledge. As we saw, this knowledge is a modification. Any knowledge is a modification in the mind that reveals the nature of an object. As we saw, when my eyes come in contact with a pot, then a pot thought rises in my mind, and that does two things. Vishaya varana nivrittihi. It removes the veil of ignorance covering the pot. And Vishaya prakashaha, it illuminates the pot. So when these two things happen, I say, I know that this object is doubtlessly a pot. Similarly, this doubtless vritti has to arise in my mind about who I am. Therefore, we have to find out what is the means for the rise of this doubtless vritti, or rise of this valid doubtless vritti. We called it prama, and prama karanam pramanam. Therefore, the pramanam is the means for the rise of prama. The knowledge of the pot is the knowledge of an object. But similarly, I need doubtless valid knowledge about this subject. Therefore, we looked at all possible means of knowledge, and we eliminated all the laukika pramanas, because all the laukika pramanas can only reveal the nature of objects. That includes laukika shabdas also, words that are generated by human beings, because they are based on laukika pramanas. They are just carriers of knowledge that are gathered from laukika pramanas. Therefore, we said that Pratyakshena yastu payona buddhyate enam vidanti vedena tasmat vedasya vedata. Therefore, we came to the Vedika Shabdas as the only pramana. Dharma Brahma Pratipadakam Apaurusheyam Pramana Vakyam Veda. The words of the Veda are not carriers of knowledge gained through Laukika Pramanas, but the words of the Vedas are themselves the revealers of knowledge that cannot be gained through any other means. So when one comes to this point, then one sees what value Vedanta has to add to my pursuit. And then one becomes, from a jigyasuhu, one becomes a shushrushuhu. The seeker of knowledge gets converted into a seeker of shravanam of Vedanta. Now he becomes desirous of listening to Vedanta. Therefore, mumukshuhu to jigyasuhu is the first conversion. Jigyasuhu to shushrushuhu is the second conversion. And this is when shravanam becomes relevant. This is when Jnana Yoga really starts, because Jnana Yoga consists of three pursuits: Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam. So we looked at what Shravanam is: consistent and systematic study of the texts of Vedanta for a length of time under a competent Acharya. This is the definition Swamiji gives for Shravanam. We looked at this in detail in the last class. And this is where we said that the pramana is operated by the Guru. With the help of the Guru, the Shishya operates the pramana, Vedanta pramana. And then the Guru analyzes the sentences of Vedanta. What are they for? Are they for just understanding what the sentences are saying? The ultimate purpose there is to understand who I am. That's why we said that it is like looking into a mirror. A mirror reveals my face because I cannot see my face through any other means. I need a mirror. Similarly, the Shabdas of Vedanta, they reveal what my nature is that cannot be known through any other means. And therefore, they serve like a word mirror, a verbal mirror, in which I see what my real nature is. As the Guru does this deliberation on the sentences of Vedanta, the same deliberation happens in the mind of the student also during Shravanam. And we say that the Jnanam has to arise during Shravanam because this is where the pramana is being operated. Then the next point is Mananam, because there will be doubts in the process. There are going to be doubts. Why are there doubts? Because the Ajnanam is there. Because the Ajnanam is there, the Adhyasa is there. Therefore, I am superimposing in various areas. This superimposition is there. With regards to who I am, with regards to who Īśvara is, and with regards to what the world really is, because I don't know their real nature, I have superimposed multiple things upon it. And these superimpositions that I have in my mind, they are really my conclusions. And these conclusions rule my mind. And therefore, when Vedanta says something else about my nature, about the nature of the world, or about the nature of Īśvara, then I find it difficult to accept. And this intellectual resistance to understanding what Vedanta is saying comes in the form of this doubt. And we say Vedanta is not something to be believed. Vedanta has to be understood. And therefore, one cannot just say that I believe what Vedanta says. Now am I liberated? No. The liberation comes only from a firm and clear conviction who I am, with regards to who I am. And for the rise of this firm and clear, unshakable conviction, all possible doubts have to be resolved. Because knowledge and doubts cannot coexist. So this is mananam. Now what happens after Shravanam and Mananam are done? We say that for an adhikari, a person who has gained the qualifications, over a period of time, consistent and systematic study of the texts of Vedanta for a length of time. As this study is continued, the time period varies from individual to individual, but we say that there is a rise of clear, firm, doubtless knowledge, a rise of conviction that I am Brahman. This conviction rises, and the conviction is unshakable also. So, with this, moksha is no longer a goal. Moksha ceases to be a goal because I know that moksha is my nature. This Purnatvam is my nature. So, this person knows I am free, I am liberated. But when it comes to gaining emotional benefits of the knowledge, there is a roadblock, which is one's own past habits. Even though one knows very clearly that I am Purna, I am Brahman, under various situations, habits can take over. The habitual samsari can come purely out of habit, not out of ignorance. Because a few moments after the habitual samsari comes, because of habitual patterns of thinking, one very quickly realizes that this is habit taking over. And therefore, we say that one has to do this nididhyasanam. And what is nididhyasanam for? It is purely to erode these habitual patterns of thinking. We took the example of the beggar. The beggar has been begging for decades. But then just last night, he has been informed that he has gained some inheritance now. So he has gained the knowledge now. He has also got some letter from somewhere saying that he has gained the inheritance. But still, the next day morning, he gets up and he's sleeping somewhere on the road. And then he sees somebody passing by. He extends his begging bowl. He doesn't need to do that anymore. But he does that out of habit. As soon as he does it, a few moments later, he realizes I don't have to do it. But then habits die hard. They have been created for several decades. Therefore, it takes time to erode habits. And as one erodes the habitual thinking patterns, how? By repeatedly dwelling upon this knowledge that I am Purnaha. This knowledge has to also enter my subconscious mind, just as my habits have entered the subconscious mind. When this knowledge seeps into my subconscious mind, that is when one starts to derive the emotional benefits also. As we said, that habits are many, and therefore it is impossible to erase all habits. Why? Because habits have been gained over countless janmas. There are countless habits. Vasanas are many, countless. Therefore, it is not necessary to erase all the vasanas. One has to gain a certain critical mass of the erosion of habits. And then habits become erosion of habits, and mind improvement becomes a lifelong hobby. But your moksha for this person is not in any way dependent upon the erosion of these habits. Because he still knows that in spite of these habits, I am free. So this is nididhyasanam. Now we come to today's topic. So far we had recalled whatever we have discussed so far. Now before we enter the main body of the teaching of Vedanta, where we talk about what is the nature of the Jivaha, what is the nature of Īśvara, what is the nature of this world. Before we enter those topics, there are some related topics that we have to cover because there are references to these topics will come in future topics. And therefore, it is important to get clarity on certain supporting topics. And that is where an understanding of the law of karma comes in. So let us get into today's topic. As we said, that there cannot be an effect without a cause. Every effect has a cause. Now, when it comes to this world is also an effect because there was a point in time when this world was not there. Now, if we ask the scientists about how this world came into being, the answer that we get is the Big Bang. So before the Big Bang, this world was not there. And then at some point of time, there was an enormous explosion that spewed out all the matter that is required to make up this world. But then science is having a fundamental problem. And the problem is visible today, but Vedanta says that it is a fundamental problem that science can never solve. Let us explain how consciousness arises out of matter. Vedanta asserts that science will never be able to solve this problem. Why? Because in the vision of Vedanta, consciousness is primary. Before this world came into being, consciousness that transcended space and time was there. And this is what we call Īśvara. So Īśvara was there before this world came into being, before time and space, Īśvara was still there. That was a state of pralaya, as we say. So during pralaya, if we want to ask what is pralaya like, the closest example we can give is it's similar to our deep sleep. What are things like when we are sleeping? Basically, I'm not aware of anything, but the awareness is still there. So, before this world came into being, this world and all of the Jivas, Vedanta says they were in an unmanifest form in Īśvara. They have not become observable yet. Only after the world comes into being, the world and the Jivatmas become observable. So they are in an unobservable form in Īśvara. This is what we call an unmanifest form. Now, what happens, and we discussed this question earlier, about where does Īśvara get all the material from? Well, Īśvara is there, and space is not there yet. Time is not there yet. If space is not there, where is the question of any material? Well, material needs space. And this is where we said that Vedanta gives the stunning answer that Īśvara doesn't have to look for material from anywhere outside. Īśvara is the material, finds the material within Īśvara. Īśvara finds the material within himself. This is a conscious being. And therefore we are using the word himself, really speaking. Because, I mean, we call it by various names, but there is no gender really associated here. Whether we call it he, she, it, all of those are just some way of communicating this. There is no real gender involved here. It's a consciousness is there, Brahman is there, and Maya, this unmanifest, Jivas and unmanifest matter is there. यथोर्णनाभिः सृजते गृह्णते च यथा पृथिव्याम् औषधयः सम्भवन्ति यथा सतः पुरुषात् केशलोमानि तथाक्षरात् सम्भवति ह विश्वम्. We saw the example of the spider. The spider weaves the web. For weaving the web, the spider doesn't have to get the material from outside itself. The spider is capable of swallowing the web also. So similarly, Īśvara becomes this creation, just as we can say the spider becomes the web. Īśvara becomes this Jagat and all the embodied Jivas within this Jagat. We will see this later. Īśvara only produces the bodies of these Jivas. The Jivas themselves are there in an unmanifest form in Īśvara even before the creation. So this is similar to how a dream world arises in a waker who has fallen asleep. Where does the dream world arise from? Where does the dream space come from? Where does the dream time come from? Where does the dream sun and the moon come from? It is all there in the mind of this waker who is asleep. They are in an unmanifest form in the waker's mind, and they are getting projected in the dream. So similarly, we said that all of these jivas and the entire jagat is there in Īśvara's mind in an unmanifest form. This mind of Īśvara is what is called Maya. Now the question arises as to why does Īśvara become this jagat? Why does this waker who went to sleep dream? Because there is a certain pressure of the mental impressions. There is a certain pressure of the impressions that spontaneously gives rise to this dream or exhausting those impressions. So similarly, we say that in case of Īśvara, the samashti karma means this totality of the karmas of all the jivas, they are beginning to fructify. There is a certain pressure from these karmas to fructify. And the only way these karmas can yield their results in the form of sukha and dukkha experiences is that there needs to be a world. Therefore, Īśvara projects this world. Īśvara becomes this world. So there are three entities that we have discussed: the Jivaha, the Jagat, and Īśvara. These three entities cover everything. There is nothing apart from these three entities. So now we can ask, is the Jagat for the sake of Īśvara? Does Īśvara have to gain anything from this Jagat? We say Īśvara is Purnaha. Īśvara has nothing to gain from this. Why? Because they're already full, complete, and limitless. How can you add something to a limitless entity? Nothing can be added. That is why it's called limitless. Īśvara has got nothing to gain. Then is the Jagat for the sake of the Jagat? We say that the Jagat cannot be for the sake of the Jagat because the Jagat is inert. What do we mean by Jagat? We mean all of these mountains and lakes and oceans and planets and galaxies, the space, etc. The Jagat is not for the sake of Īśvara. Jagat is not for the sake of Jagat. Therefore, what is the only entity remaining? It is the Jiva. Therefore, we say that Īśvara becomes this Jagat for the sake of the Jivas, because that is the only way in which the Jivas can exhaust their Puṇyas and Papas, by going through the experiences that are to be brought by those Puṇya and Papa karmas. And the second thing is, in this process, the Jiva can also try to gain moksha. It is for the sake of the Jiva. Now, there's an important idea here, that we said that Īśvara is this conscious being, consciousness. When we bring in Maya, we say consciousness plus Maya is this conscious being. Now, Īśvara has become this Jagat. So, Īśvara is the intelligent cause. Īśvara is the conscious being who has the skill and the knowledge to become this, to create this Jagat. And then Īśvara is also the material cause, because Īśvara becomes this Jagat. So Īśvara pervades this Jagat, because the material cause always pervades the product. The clay always pervades the pot. One cannot even imagine a pot without its material like the clay. So wherever the pot is, the clay is. Similarly, whatever we take in the world, Īśvara is very much there, pervading that entity. So Īśvara being the intelligent cause, intelligence pervades the entire Jagat. And so this entire Jagat is like the body of Īśvara. The body of a conscious being. Now if we take our body has got various built-in defenses. What sustains this body is what we call health. Good health sustains this body. And therefore, for the sustenance of health, there are various built-in defenses in this body. For example, if a foreign object enters my nose, I immediately sneeze. Or when an object like water or some food particles enter the windpipe, then there is immediate coughing. And then we have the entire immune system. If some germs enter the body, then the immune system kicks into action and tries to neutralize those germs. So why is all this there? For the sake of preservation of health that sustains the body. And these are not voluntary actions. The intelligence is so great that it knows that if these are made voluntary actions that I have to will, then that's a problem. So the intelligence has designed this body in such a way that these are all programmed in the body. I don't have to will these. There is no volition involved here. When something like this happens, when there is a threat to the health of the body, then involuntarily the defenses kick in. For example, germs may enter my body when I'm sleeping, and my immune system still kicks in. Or something may enter my nose when I'm sleeping, I still sneeze. So all of these are involuntary actions. So similarly, we say that this universe has got this intelligence pervading the universe. It's like the body of Īśvara, the body of a conscious being, with intelligence pervading every nook and corner. And what is the equivalent of health that sustains this universe? We were to ask, and the answer is, it is dharma. Dharma means this order. there has to be an order in the universe that sustains this universe. There has to be a harmony in the universe amongst the various components that are sustaining this universe. Just as within the body there are various organs, they work together harmoniously. Similarly, there has to be a harmonious working of various things in the universe to keep this going. So this health, harmony, order of the universe is what is called dharma. So when there is a threat to dharma, then this universe retaliates. Just like the body retaliates when there is a threat to its health. Therefore, there are all these involuntary defenses that are programmed into the design of this universe that kick in. Why? To defend dharma. And when there is a huge violation of dharma somewhere, when the inbuilt system is under stress to defend dharma, that is when Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So really speaking, this system gives rise to an avatara. The avatara is like a massive retaliation by the universe. It is because of the samashti karma again that this happens. Īśvara doesn't come in because of Īśvara's own karma. As we said, Īśvara is Purnaha, beyond Puṇya and Pāpa. But then the samashti karma, if there is a huge imbalance, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata, whenever dharma declines to a great extent, abhyutthanam adharmasya, when adharma rises, the health of the universe is being severely affected. And therefore, this retaliation by the laws of the universe happens. The laws of the universe produce this avatara, which is basically nature itself appearing in a certain form. It's a force of nature that gets unleashed in a certain form to restore dharma, to neutralize adharma. Paritranaya sadhunam, for the protection of those who are protectors of dharma, who are trying to uphold dharma. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam, and for neutralizing those who are carrying out adharmic activities. Sambhavami yuge yuge. Dharma samsthapanarthaya. So Īśvara, as we see, is very concerned about maintenance of this dharma. That is why the design of this universe has got this inbuilt system that guards, protects dharma. Therefore, we say that this protection of dharma is built into the design, into the DNA of the universe, just as our protection is built into our DNA. And that is why the law of karma is in place, which basically awards the one who upholds dharma. There is a certain merit that accrues to the person who upholds dharma, and there is a demerit that accrues to the person who carries out adharma. This is what is called Puṇya and Pāpa. Therefore, there are varieties of beings. There are varieties of species that we see. There are varieties of beings, and each being goes through varieties of experiences in life. And when it comes to humans, we can see certain human beings have an easier time accomplishing artha and kama, and other human beings have to struggle to accomplish artha and kama. And we all have these experiences, that we term lucky or unlucky. For example, I have an important interview and then I go to the bus stop, but the bus just leaves. We call this an unlucky day. On the other hand, sometimes one goes to an interview and one is very nervous, etc. But then one sees that the person on the other side is an old classmate. And there's immediate rapport, and then one gets the job. So this is what one would call good luck. And similarly, we can imagine that in the earlier days when people were hunting, etc., and all this was common, even the hunters on some days they have a good catch, on some days they have a bad catch. Some days they get some lots of food, and some days they get little food. And then the hunter's wife may say, "Oh, today you got a lot of food. This is our good luck." And on some days she may say, "This is our bad luck." So every culture has an equivalent for the word luck. But what Vedanta says, there is nothing really called luck. Every experience that unfolds in our life, that brings happiness, sorrow, that we term as good luck or bad luck, it's all fructifying past karma. So there is a certain indweller of the body, which we call as Jivaha or Dehi, indweller of the body. So the indweller of the body has got an existence, an unobservable existence, before getting associated with this particular body. And even after the death of this body, the indweller continues to exist in an unobservable form. So this is the surviving Jiva. Therefore, this life that we call as life, it is a temporary association of the unobservable Jiva with a particular body. And that association of this unobservable Jiva with this physical body is what we call the phenomenon of birth. Similarly, the dissociation of this Jiva from this body is what we call death. So this Jiva has got a lot of karmas, merit, demerit, or Puṇya and Pāpa, gathered from several past janmas. And therefore, these karmas are what determine the type of body that this Jiva gets associated with and the types of experiences that this Jiva has in this particular life. So if we were to look into what this Puṇya and Pāpa is, basically like a seed. So let us take the example where one plants a lemon seed. If one plants a lemon seed, then what comes out of it is a lemon sapling. It may take a few days for the sprout to emerge, or it may take a few decades. It all depends on the prevailing conditions. But what emerges is always a lemon sapling, a lemon tree. It is never like a coconut tree or a guava tree or something like that. Always a lemon tree. Therefore, as one sows, so one reaps. So now this Jivaha, with every thought, word, and deed, is planting these seeds. The Jivaha is not directly planting these seeds of Pāpa and Puṇya. As we said, the law makes it happen. So if one's thought, word, and deed are in keeping with dharma, then the law ensures that a seed gets planted, a punya seed gets planted. On the other hand, if the thought, word, and deed are not in keeping with dharma, then a papa seed gets planted. And the seed is also not observable. That is why the punya and papa are called adrishtam. But then they have to necessarily sprout one day. And how do they sprout? The sprouting essentially means that they have to produce the sukha or dukkha. So that is where I sent this shloka on the WhatsApp, and I neglected to look at the first shloka. So we will look at that first, and then come to this second point. So the first shloka is this Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, 28th verse. So I will read that first. It says, Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyaktanidhananyeva tatra ka paridevana. It says, Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani he Bharata. Hey Arjuna, Krishna is telling Arjuna, Avyaktadini bhutani. That means all these beings that you're seeing in front of you, basically all these beings in the Mahabharata war, essentially that is what the beings would mean. Or it will also refer to all the beings in the universe. Their beginning, before they become observable, they are avyakta. Avyakta means unmanifest, unobservable. So avyakta is the adi. So in the beginning they are unmanifest. Avyaktadini bhutani. These beings are unmanifest in the beginning. Vyakta madhyani bharata. In the middle only they are becoming manifest. Manifest as this body and mind. And avyakta nidhananyeva. And after this body ends, this becomes, the jiva becomes avyakta again. Becomes unmanifest. Now we come to the second shloka, which is from this Brahma Vaivarta Purana. So I'll read that. Avashyam eva bhoktavyam kritam karma shubhashubham na bhuktam kshiyate karma kalpakoti shatairapi. We talked about this Jivas, thoughts, words, and deeds, planting these seeds of Punya and Papa. We said they have to fructify, they have to sprout sometime. This is what the shloka is saying. Avashyam eva bhoktavyam kritam karma shubha shubham. So whatever shubha and ashubha karma, that means punya and papa karma, the seed that has been planted, shubha shubham karma, kritam karma, this karma that has been done and the seed has been planted. Avashyam anubhoktavyam. They have to sprout. They have to be, the results of those have to be experienced. And the next line says, Na abhuktam kshiyate karma. So this karma, this punya and papa, these seeds, na abhuktam kshiyate, abhuktam na kshiyate. They will never perish without giving rise to their experience. It is not that the seed is planted and one day it suddenly disappears. Says that is not possible. Kalpa koti shatairapi. It says, gives a time period in which they will not perish. Kalpa koti shatairapi, meaning that in 100 crore days of Brahma. Kalpa means one day of Brahma. And shatakoti, koti shatairapi. So even in 100 crore days of Brahma, and if you look at what this kalpa is, it is 4,320,000,000 years. Is one day of Brahma. 4,320,000,000 years. There is another slightly different number given in a couple of dictionaries, which is 432 million years. But I believe it is this 4,320,000,000, which is more accurate because that tallies with a couple of other references that I checked. So 4,320,000,000 years, and it doesn't end there. Even in 100 crore of these seeds don't perish. They continue to be associated with the Jivas account. So avashyam anubhoktavyam. Now, if we look at the types of karmas that the Jiva is associated with, then the texts of Vedanta talk about three karmas. One is called Sanchita karma. Sanchita karma is the entire bundle of karma that the Jiva is carrying. So the Jiva is unobservable really. Beyond the range of science. Only known through the Vedika Shabda Praman. All of this is only known through the Vedika Shabda Pramana, the words of Vedanta. And there is this unobservable Jiva. And this unobservable Jiva is associated with all of these unobservable Puṇya and Pāpa. So this entire bundle of this Puṇya and Pāpa that this Jiva is carrying, accumulated from countless janmas in the past, is called Sanchita Karma. Sanchita Karma. Now, let us say the Jiva is in an unmanifest form. Now, this Jiva is about to get associated with a body. Does the entire bundle of karma determine the Jiva's next body? That's the question. So we say no. There is a minuscule part of this huge bundle of Sanchita karma that is now ready to fructify, ready to sprout. So all the 99.9999999% of this Sanchita karma is really lying dormant, waiting to fructify at some future time. The conditions are not yet right for this vast majority of the Sanchita karma to fructify. So there's this 0.00000000, some 10 to the power of -5 or 10 to the power of -10, whatever. That portion of this Sanchita karma is what is now ready to fructify. And that is what gives rise to the next body. And the experiences that the Jiva will experience in that body. That is known as prarabdha karma. So we have been using, you see, these words like karma, prarabdha, etc. We have been using them in the past a little bit. But this is what is the real technical definition of it. There are in Tattva Bodha actually gives the technical definition of it, but because of the paucity of time, we are not looking at it today. We will see it in some other context. But a small portion of the Sanchita karma that is now ready to fructify, that determines the next janma and the experiences that the jiva will have in that janma, that is called prarabdha. Prarabdha is a small subset of Sanchita. And by living this life, that prarabdha gets exhausted. But then what happens when the jiva leads the life the Jiva accumulates new karma also. So the Jiva is engaging in various actions. And some of these actions will be in keeping with dharma, some of them will not be in keeping with dharma. And therefore, there is this accumulation of new karma that happens even as the Jiva is exhausting the past karma, the Jiva is also gaining new karma. And this is known as agami karma. So some of this Sanchita bundle gets exhausted, but as that gets exhausted, it is replenished with this new agami karma. Now one may ask a question here. That you said that this Janma is determined by this Sanchita bundle which contains all of these karmas accumulated over countless Janmas in the past. But then how did the first Janma happen? Because before the first Janma, the Sanchita bundle must have been empty. If the Sanchita bundle is empty, then the subset of a null set is a null set. So the prarabdha has to be empty. If prarabdha is empty, how will it produce a body? How did the first body get produced? What we say there, what Vedanta says, is there was no first Janma at all. Īśvara is anadi. Īśvara's Maya is anadi, beginningless. This Jiva, this unobservable Jiva, was always there in Maya, and this Jiva was also beginningless. So there was never a first Janma, this unobservable Jiva. The unmanifest Jiva, Avyakta Jiva, is as beginningless as Īśvara. So you and I have always been there in this unmanifest form forever. There never was a beginning for this Jiva. The Jiva's body has a beginning. But the Jiva itself, the seed form of the Jiva, is known as the Karana Sharira. We will see that later. Never had a beginning. As beginningless as Īśvara, as beginningless as Īśvara's Maya. So Īśvara does not create Jivas. This is a very popular misconception that Īśvara creates Jivas. Īśvara only creates the embodiments for this Jiva. This seed form of the Jiva is beginningless. It was never created. Just as Īśvara also was never created. So as we see that from this Sanchita bundle, a small part gets exhausted and the new Agami karma comes and it replenishes the Sanchita. This has enough karmas to keep this going forever. Forever. So this births, Punarapi, Jananam, Punarapi, Maranam. This will just keep continuing. There is only one way out. That is Atma Jnanam. It is like awakening from a dream. Let us say that one is in a dream, and then one committed, one did some good karya, some good karma in the dream. And now the president is about to confer some big award on this person. So this person has readied himself to go to this receiving of the award ceremony. And then he wakes up. Now, is he going to get rewarded for whatever good karma he did? He has woken up, he has falsified the whole thing. Similarly, let us say that one committed a crime in the dream, and the police are now starting to sniff around. And now he is very worried in the dream. And then he wakes up. Is he now going to get arrested and put behind bars? No. So these good karmas and bad karmas, they cease to have a hold on this person when this person wakes up. Similarly, we say that once this person wakes up, gets the Atma Jnanam, then this Puṇya and Pāpa cease to have a hold on this person. So for such a person, a Jnani, the Sanchita gets destroyed. The Sanchita karma, the whole bundle gets destroyed. And after this Jnanam, this person doesn't accrue any more Agami karma, or whatever is done by this body. There is no new karma that accrues to this person because he is not associated with any of this anatma anymore. He's no longer a doer. Only a doer who has doership gets this karma. This person goes beyond that. Some of these things we will look at later once we come to Atma Jnana. But there is one thing that is not destroyed, which is this prarabdha karma. That small portion of the sanchita that started to fructify and that gave rise to the jnani's body. That is like an arrow that has been shot. It will hit the target. So whatever karmas that were not dormant, that started to fructify and gave rise to this body, we say that those karmas necessarily have to bring the sukha and dukkha. And they will bring the experiences. So the body of the jnani will get affected, the mind of the jnani will get affected because of the prarabdha punya papa. But this jnani has gone beyond the body and the mind, having known that I am Brahman. So there may be some pleasurable experiences, there may be some painful experiences in the body and the mind. The jnani will never say, I am suffering. Jnani will always say, I am Purna. So now, after death, so now let's come back to the Ajnani's situation. So after death, what is death basically? When the prarabdha is exhausted, then this person gets dissociated from the body. This jiva gets dissociated from the body. That is what is called death. Now, after death, again, this is purely the Shabda Pramana of the Veda, we know this, that there is a next set of prarabdha that begins to fructify from that bundle of Sanchita. See, some of the agami that is gained during the Janma, some of the agami new karma that the person does when living, that joins the Sanchita bundle. And some of the agami may get exhausted in that same Janma itself. But some of the agami joins the Sanchita. Now, from this Sanchita, a small part is starting to get fructified, and that determines the next body. So, if there is a majority punya, then this jiva is lifted to the higher loka, devata loka, for example. And if there is a majority of fructifying papam, then this jiva is pushed down to one of the lower lokas. And if the karmas are in balance, the fructifying karmas are partly punyam and partly papam. That is the situation under which we say that one gets a human janma. And that is why the human janma is always a mixture of sukha and dukkha. There is no human being whose life is all pleasurable. There is no human being whose life is all totally pain also. There is always a mixture of some pleasure and pain. So now there is this question about if this karma determines so much, then what is the role of my free will? So there is prarabdha that is bringing pleasure and pain to my life. But then I also have a free will. So there are two situations possible. I am trying to accomplish certain goals, and my prarabdha may actually aid my pursuit also. So prarabdha, maybe there's a lot of good prarabdha. So whatever destination I'm trying to pursue, the prarabdha may aid that. That is why we give the example of the river. So in case of the river, when the flow of the river is in the direction in which I am rowing, then I'll reach my destination faster. So that is the situation in which prarabdha is aiding my purushartha, my free will. And this may happen even in spiritual pursuit also. And that is why we say that spiritual punyam is important, and we talked about how to gain it, etc. On the other hand, the prarabdha, the flow of the river, can oppose the direction of my rowing. So I may encounter difficult situations in my life. Whatever I am trying to do, something against that seems to be happening. So in these cases, there are a few outcomes that are possible. The prarabdha may be a weak prarabdha, which is called durbala prarabdha. So if the prarabdha is weak, then a stronger free will can overcome that prarabdha. In which case I can still reach my destination, my goals, overcoming the effect of prarabdha. That is very much possible. But in certain cases, the prarabdha may be very strong, prabala prarabdha, in which case my efforts may get negated by this prabala prarabdha. But we should always keep in mind that the free will is there. Now, there are a couple of examples that provide some insight into this working of the law of karma. And because these are insightful examples, I thought we will discuss that. So there are always these questions that we have sometimes, that I have led a good life. I have not done anything wrong as far as I can see. But then still, I'm having these difficult situations. Why me? Why is this happening to me? So there is an example that illustrates this, which is the example of a silo. For example, if we take a farmer, and a farmer is producing a lot of grains. Every harvest season, there are new grains that come in. So the silo is a huge cylindrical type structure where there's a ladder. So this farmer climbs the ladder and then puts the new grains at the top. And this holds several decades worth of grains. So he's putting new grains at the top, wonderful grains. But then when he has to remove the grains, he doesn't remove it from the top, he removes it from the bottom. So there's a small door. He opens that and removes it from the bottom. And then he finds these bad grains coming out. So he says, I'm putting in good grains, but why am I getting these bad grains? So the reason is obvious, that if one is getting some of these bad grains, the only reason is that they had been put into the silo sometime in the past. On the other hand, one may say that, hey, look, this other person is putting in all these good grains at the top of this silo. But then this person is getting all these bad grains out, all these good grains out of the bottom. Again, the only explanation is that these good grains must have been put by this person sometime in the past. So this example answers this question about why some corrupt people who are doing these wrong acts seem to be having good lives at the moment. On the other hand, those who are doing these good things, they seem to be suffering. So this is exactly the reason. So if one is putting good grains at the top, one can be sure that sometime in the future one will definitely get these good grains. And therefore we say, use the free will to put these good grains, use the free will to perform these dharma karyas. There is this other example that indicates the complexity of the working of the law of karma. At the end of the Mahabharata war, Dhritarashtra had this conversation with Krishna. And this seems to be more of some kind of a folk tale that might have been passed down traditionally. Then I tried looking for it in the original Mahabharata and it is not there. But nevertheless, this story illustrates something important that is worth thinking about. So Dhritarashtra had this conversation with Krishna where he asked him, why did I have to go through this immense suffering of losing my 100 sons? Why? Krishna knows about all the janmas, past janmas of all the jivas. He says so in the Bhagavad Gita also. So Krishna was able to answer Dhritarashtra's question. He said that 50 janmas ago, he was hunting somewhere. There are some slight different variations in the story, but in one variation, he threw a burning net on top of a bird's nest, which had 100 chicks in it. A burning net. Now the two parents, they were really distraught. They tried to escape from this, and they got blinded when they escaped from that. And as they flew away, they looked back and saw all the chicks shrieking as they were burning. And seeing that scene that cannot be put in words, they cursed Dhritarashtra, saying that you will have to go through this suffering that I went through, that we are going through now, you will have to go through it one day. So then, hearing this, Dhritarashtra asked Krishna as to why I did not go through this the very next janma. Krishna said that you planted the seed of Pāpa, that had to fructify one day when the conditions are right. The conditions were not right for this to fructify in the next janma. Why? Because Dhritarashtra had to beget 100 sons. And for each son, he had to gather some punya. And therefore, the next 49 janmas, Dhritarashtra is doing dharma karyas. Dhritarashtra was actually more of a pious person in those janmas. He did some good things. And he did enough good things to have 100 sons. And now, in that 50th janma, this karma was ready to give him 100 sons. But at that time, the sleeping seed, that dormant seed that was to make him lose those 100 sons, that got activated. Because now was the time for it to act. And therefore he had 100 sons and he had to lose them also in that one janma. So this indicates how helpless the jiva is in terms of all this bundle of sanchita karmas that are there. That's why the Shastras repeatedly say, engage in dharma, engage in dharma, engage in dharma. And then there is this next question about what happens to a spiritual seeker after this death. So let us say that one is on this moksha marga. One has come to this moksha marga. One is a mumukshuhu. One is pursuing moksha. Is pursuing jnanam and moksha. So he's a spiritual seeker. What happens? So Arjuna asks this question in the Bhagavad Gita, and that is the next set of 3 shlokas that I'll quickly go through because we are running out of time. I'll quickly go through them. And I will read the shlokas. So this is the 41st, 42nd, and 43rd shloka of the 6th chapter. So Arjuna asks this question about what will happen to this person who is now pursuing Jnanam and Moksha, who has come to Vedanta, whose focus has shifted from the Veda Purva to Vedanta. So if his focus was on Veda Purva, then he could be doing more of these dharma karyas, etc. But his focus is now shifting to Vedanta. He is coming more to the Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, etc. So Krishna's reply is very interesting here. What Krishna says that in such cases, a part of the Sanchitas may be fructifying that want to give him some other kind of janma. Puja Swamiji says that each of us has got enough Sanchita karmas that may lead to an octopus janma, for example. All those karmas are there dormant in Sanchita karma. So a small portion of this is beginning to fructify, let us say, to give some other type of karma. But then, if one is in the pursuit of moksha, if one is trying to gain even chitta shuddhi for the sake of moksha, or is pursuing moksha actively through trying to gain jnanam, but let us say the life gets interrupted due to prarabdha, then what happens? Krishna says that because this person was a sincere pursuer of the spiritual path, and it begins to override these past fructifying karmas that may want to put this person in other bodies. We will read Krishna's answer. So this is somewhat like one is standing in a queue at the airport, let us say, right? And normally one has to go in the queue. Each person in front of the queue, only after they have been serviced, you get your chance. So there are some of these prarabdhas that are in front of the queue, right, which are demanding that you get a certain body. And then sometimes when you're standing in line, then suddenly they call out, Mumbai passengers, Mumbai passengers. Right? What happens? You leave the queue and you go in a separate line. So something similar to that happens. So I'll read that shloka. So Krishna says, for the spiritual seeker, Prapya Puṇya Lokan Ushitva Shashwati Samaha Shuchinam Srimatangehe Yoga Bhrashto Bhijayate. So Krishna says that such a seeker, actively in pursuit of Jnanam, Prapya Puṇya Lokan, he goes to some higher lokas for a while, for not a while. He says, Shashwati Samaha. So it may be a while in the long span of time, it's a short while. But in span of human years, it is Shashwati Samaha. So compared to human years, he spends lots and lots of human years in some higher loka. And then Shuchinam Srimatang Gehe Yoga Bhrashto Bhijayate. So such a person who is a yoga bhrashta of the past life, meaning he was in pursuit of yoga, was in pursuit of jnana yoga. So such a person, if his life gets interrupted, then he becomes like a prodigy in the next janma. So how does it start? Suchinam Srimatang Gehe. So he is born in a good household, Krishna says. What kind of household? Shuchinam Srimatam, a household that is reasonably well off. Srimatang Gehe, in a reasonably well off household. Shuchinam, who are cultured people, who is born in a reasonably wealthy, cultured household. That cultured part is important. Because of that reasonable wealth, the struggle for artha and kama is not there as much. But because the culture is there, he very soon gets associated with his past inclination. That comes in the third shloka. We will look at that. But before that, Krishna says again, he gives another option also, which is in 6.42. Athava yoginam kule bhavati dhimatam etadhi durlabhataram loke janma yadidrisham. So Krishna gives another alternative. Athava, or yoginam dhimatam kule bhavati, who is born into this family of yogis. Dhimatam, jnana yogis. He is born in this family where the parents themselves may be people who have this jnana. So he immediately gets the environment for him to start working forward. And Krishna says, Etadhi durlabhataram. This kind of a birth is extremely rare. Etadhi durlabhataram loke janma idrisham. This kind of birth is extremely rare. And then what happens? Such a person may have a normal childhood for the first 10 years or 15 years or whatever. But then something kicks in. That old vasanas, they start to act. And then Krishna says, Tatra tam buddhi sanyogam labhate paurvadehikam yatate cha tato bhuyah samsiddhau kuru nandana. So now Krishna says, after that first 10, 15 years, Tatra tam buddhi sanyogam labhate paurvadehikam. So Tatra tam paurvadehikam buddhi sanyogam labhate. And suddenly he gets this inclination which was there in the Purva Janma, Paurva Dehikam, which was there in the past body, the kind of inclination that was there in the past body, that gets revived. Yatate cha tato bhuyah. So now he begins this striving again. Yatate cha. Again, bhuyah, tato bhuyah. And from that point, he starts again. He tries to do better. Sansiddhau, to attain this moksha, to attain this success, which is basically the moksha that is being taught. So therefore, we say that the wise use of our free will is very important. That's why the Shastras stress on engaging in dharma. And as we have discussed, that one has to come to karma yoga, efficacious, proper efficacious action with proper attitude. Upasana yoga, we have discussed all this. And gain chitta shuddhi, come to jnana yoga, and then even after the life is interrupted, we have Krishna's assurance. And one will continue from where one left off. And ideally, one has to try to gain jnanam in this janma itself. Because only through jnanam one can become completely free of this hold of karma. Otherwise, one is still like that insect in a vortex in the river example that we discussed. It goes from one vortex to another helplessly, pushed by karma from one body to another. Only the spiritual seeker gets Krishna's assurance here. And then if one gains jnanam, then one is totally free of this karma, as we said, as if one has awakened from the dream. So jnanam is the ultimate cure for freedom from the hold of karma. With this, I will end our discussion today. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So because I took a bit of extra time to finish this topic, we'll have time for a few comments. So, yes, Vishwanathanji?
Yeah. So today's topic was on the law of karmas, correct? In that, what I
Yes.
could understand here is the Jivas body takes place due to the Sanchita karma, the accumulated Sanchita karma, and a portion of the Sanchita karma we fructifies into the Jivas, this body, whatever the body we are going to take, right?
Yes, yes.
And then we undergo the prarabdha karma of the past deeds, and then we accumulate the agami karma during this particular period, right?
Yes, yes.
Now, my only question, which I got the answer, but even then I just thought I will clarify with you. In this portion of, getting the body to a specific type of parents, correct? You are associated with their relationship also. Because of that, you are coming into born in a specific family, as Krishna says. So my question here is the example of Dhritarashtra, what you gave, because of the parents' past mistakes, the children also get suffering because of the past association. So what I would like to ask question here is, in the current jiva or current life cycle, the karmas played by the role of parents, will it have both good and bad karmas? Will it have effect on the sons and daughters? That is my first question. And the Dhritarashtra example give me a clear indication that yes, there is a direct correlation between what parents did in the past karmas have direct impact on the children in the current life cycle. I think, can we say that clearly from this example?
What we can say is that people who have shared karmas, they come together somehow.
Yeah.
So it is not that the children who died in the battle, right? They were purely influenced by Dhritarashtra's karma.
Correct.
They also carried their own karmas that required them to go through those experiences.
Fully agree.
And so the karma somehow matches the people who have to come together, so that they go through the shared experience, which gives the appropriate results to both of them.
But there is no direct impact of the punya pāpam accumulated by parents will have effect in this current jiva.
Each person's punya papa will only affect that person, will bring experiences to that person's life that exhaust those punyas and papas. It is all independent for that jiva. But if it so happens that certain people have got similar karmas that have to go through similar experiences, then they come together. But each person is experiencing the results of their own karma only.
Okay. So it's independent. That's what you want to say.
Yes.
Parents karmas will have, maybe have certain point of time, they may have some impact, but otherwise it will be totally independent.
Yes, that impact that comes to the child is purely due to the child's own karma.
Okay.
But the child happened to be associated with the parent because only through that parent the child could go through that experience also.
Yes, correct. Yeah, yeah. So
So
totally independent.
the other people become like an instrument for karma to give their results to this person.
Oh, okay, okay. I was under the impression that there is a correlation directly. Like, for example, you get wealth from your parents in this janma because of your past punya pāpam. Now, similarly, when wealth is getting transferred, I thought the karmas of loss of karmas also have some effect. Karke, I was thinking. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
If the wealth got transferred, that is because the child had some punya which required that wealth to come, and the wealth came through the parent. Basically.
Correct. Similarly, I was thinking that karmas of parents also will have effect. I was thinking so far. That is now clarified now. Yeah.
Krishna, you have
Thank
a question?
you.
Yes, a couple of questions. I'll try to keep it short. One is you mentioned, or I heard it like this, that Maya is the mind of Īśvara. Is it the mind of Īśvara? Is it Maya is what is in our mind? Because if it is the mind of Īśvara, then the world becomes a very objective experience for all of us. All of us will have to experience the world in a very similar way. Whereas if it is created in our mind, then it is our subjective experience. So which one of this, or is it a mixture of both? Because there is obviously some part of the world which we can experience objectively also. Like I am sitting in front of a screen, you're also sitting in front of a screen. All of us agree that there is a screen in front of us. So these are objective experiences. But the world that I suffer from or experience from, suffer, I mean, when I say suffer, both pain and pleasure both, but that is a result of my subjective experience.
Yes.
So,
yes. So this answer to this question will become clearer only when we get into Īśvara's Swarupa and Jivas Swarupa, etc. We will discuss that. So the reason the Jiva, the Jnani doesn't suffer at all, as we said, right? Jnani's body and mind may suffer, but the Jnani doesn't suffer, right? So this suffering that I say, I am suffering, etc., which is our subjective experience, right? So that is due to ajnana, because one is not viewing the objective world, one is superimposing a subjective world upon the objective world. That is because of my ajnana. So basically, there are only two entities in this world, really speaking. There is Brahman and there is Maya. And everything that we are talking about here are products of Maya. So including this body and the mind, they are products of Maya only. Because if you see, before this world came into existence, only Īśvara was there, we said. Īśvara's consciousness, plus this primordial matter called Maya. This primordial matter is matter in an unmanifest form. We will look at all this in more detail, but I'm just giving a preview. So in this world, there is only two entities. Really speaking, you can also ask the question, if there are two entities, how can it be Advaitam? Advaita, there's only one entity. We'll answer all of those questions.
Sure.
But really, the reality is Brahman, and then there is this primordial thing that cannot be classified as real or unreal, which is Maya. And then everything else is a product of Maya. We will come to all of this more later.
Sure. Okay. The second question is on accruing karma.
Yes.
Those things that I do, I know that I will get the benefits, or the I mean, whichever way the benefits are, positive or negative. But will I also get those karma if I don't do it, but I get the benefit of that action done by someone else? I'll give an example. Let's say I have to eat, right? But I don't farm myself. I buy from a farmer, but that farmer does a lot of bad things. But I benefit out of it, right? So the actions of this farmer, let's say some bad karma has to accrue, will that also come to me because I am the beneficiary of that action which hurt someone else? So is there a collective karma that I'm getting, a part of it I'm getting, and also a direct karma?
Yes. So basically, there are two scenarios here, that one is getting a benefit of something, and one knows he's doing bad things, right? If this is the case, then definitely there is some share of that that one will get. So indirectly, one is supporting something that even knowingly supporting something that is engaging in adharma. Right? So one becomes a party to that. On the other hand, it is possible that one may unknowingly consume something, and if you track the chain of how it was produced, there may be some adharma there. So these things become very difficult to answer.
Okay.
Really speaking, there are, I have come across teachings that say that even if ignorantly you do something wrong, then also the karma will accrue to you. And that is why you see that even when we are walking, we have no choice but to step on some insects, etc. And that happens. And one accrues the papa for that. And that is why we say that there are some papas that are unavoidable in this world. And that is why nitya karmas are there, in order to try to repeatedly keep offsetting some of the papas that may keep happening.
Okay. Thank you. And there's one other which I'm not able to wrap my head around at all, which is not having a beginning. Okay. This by you said that where we did not start with a zero karma at all, right? I mean,
yes.
And what contributes to it is two things. One is there was Īśvara, which was present in unmanifest form, right?
Yes.
So when unmanifest, everything was zero, nothing existed. So we cannot say that nothing existed at that point in time. So we cannot say that there was some karma left when Īśvara himself or herself was unmanifest, right?
See, the
That is one part.
closest, yes. The closest example to that, I'll just one comment for that. Closest example to that is our deep sleep. So in deep sleep, nothing is observable. And then from deep sleep, suddenly this dream emerges.
Correct.
So we say that something cannot emerge out of nothing. This is where we differ. Vedanta differs from the Shunyavadi Buddhists. Because Buddhism, Shunyavada Buddhism says that nothing, this Shunya was there. So we say that something cannot emerge out of nothing. So this, what we are calling nothing, is just that there are unobservable things. So this dream emerges from the unmanifest vasanas of this waker who has gone to sleep. So similarly, the whole world emerges out of the unmanifest maya of Īśvara.
Okay. The other point which came to my mind was you had mentioned that the life of this universe, which is created, is 4 billion, 32 million, 320 million years. So if at the end of this time frame, everything gets dissolved as part of pralayam and everything gets reborn, I was thinking then maybe the life or lifetime of a jiva is 4 billion, for a 4 billion 320 million, and everything gets so that's where the
So there, basically, what happens is that, and I did not touch upon that point for the paucity of time today, but even these creation cycles, as we said, don't have a beginning. So just as this creation emerges out of Īśvara, it emerges because of the samashti sanchita, samashti prarabdha fructification. From the samashti sanchita, this next cycle of creation comes in. That leads to the question about how was that previous karma gained, which caused this next cycle of creation. So we say there was a previous cycle of creation.
Correct.
And how was that creation? How did that come about? There was a previous cycle of creation. And so even these creation cycles are beginningless. And the jiva was there in each of those creation cycles also.
Okay. Got it. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. We will then conclude today.
Yes, Hari Om.
Hari.
Thank you. Hari Om. Namaskar.
Thank you. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one thing, that in some cases our sessions are getting a bit extended because of this Q&A. So if anybody wants to leave at that point after our 1.5 hours, then please feel free to leave. And we are just continuing the Q&A because we, if there is certain curiosity, we just continue that discussion. And that's the only point I wanted to. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.